In the myth of Zagreus, we encounter a story steeped in divine intrigue and cosmic consequence. Zagreus, the offspring of Zeus and Persephone, is born a divine child destined for greatness. This child represents potential and hope, embodying both divine power and the innocence of youth. However, his tale is one of tragedy and rebirth, a theme prevalent in Greek mythology. Zagreus's importance lies in his dual role as both a divine figure and a symbol of raw potential that is ultimately transformed through suffering and rebirth, a concept that resonates through the myth's narrative arc. The introduction of Zagreus is significant because it sets up the foundation for the story of rebirth and transformation. As Zeus secretly fathers Zagreus, this act of divine creation underscores the complexities of the gods' relationships and the delicate balance of power on Olympus. This story also highlights the enigmatic nature of divine intervention and the cycle of life, death, and rebirth that is central to many mythological narratives, thus enriching the overarching tapestry of Greek myths. One way to understand the myth's real-world application is through its reflection in the human condition. The trials of Zagreus, his destruction, and subsequent rebirth as Dionysus capture the human experiences of suffering, loss, growth, and regeneration. Another example lies in the way this myth embodies the duality of human nature. The resulting humanity from the ashes of the Titans and remnants of Zagreus contains both a divine spark and the inherent flaws of the Titans, mirroring the perpetual struggle within human nature between nobility and baseness. The myth can also be interpreted as symbolic of personal transformation or psychological development. Some scholars propose that Zagreus's dismemberment and rebirth are metaphors for psychological integration or individuation, where one must confront and assimilate the darker aspects of the psyche to achieve wholeness. However, this narrative is not without its controversies. Some criticisms of this myth revolve around its disturbing imagery and moral ambiguity. The tale challenges modern sensibilities with its graphic scenes and themes of jealousy, violence, and cannibalism. Additionally, there is debate among scholars about the variations of this myth, especially concerning its origins and evolution over time. The story of Zagreus is intrinsically linked to the main topic, illuminating the narrative of divine human relationships and the eternal cycle of renewal. As Zagreus is reborn as Dionysus, the myth signifies resilience and the transformative power of adversity, influencing theological and philosophical interpretations throughout history. The concept of Zeus and Persephone, a secret union, revolves around a clandestine relationship between the Greek god Zeus and Persephone, the goddess of spring and queen of the underworld. This union defies the expectations of the divine hierarchy, as Persephone is typically associated with her abducted role beside Hades. The myth unfolds as Zeus, known for his numerous affairs, stealthily fathers a child with Persephone Zagreus, who is prophesied to achieve greatness. This secret liaison serves as a pivotal foundation for the narrative, as it sets the stage for the birth and tragic fate of Zagreus, deeply entwined with themes of power, jealousy, and divine retribution. The significance of this point in the larger mythology is profound. It highlights the recurring themes of divine infidelity and the clandestine intersections between gods that lead to consequential turns in mythological history. Moreover, the secrecy of the union underscores the underlying tension in the pantheon, as actions hidden from powerful figures like Hera often lead to dramatic fallout. In exploring real-world analogies, we might consider political or royal secrets that, when revealed, have altered historical trajectories. One example could be the clandestine marriage of Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson, which led to a constitutional crisis in the UK. Another instance might involve covert negotiations between nations that, when exposed, have shifted geopolitical landscapes. Supporters of the union's narrative might argue that it reflects the complexity and unpredictability of divine lives, mirroring the multifaceted nature of human experiences. However, this point is not without controversy. The secret union could be viewed as an imbalance of power, particularly highlighting Zeus's dominance in the mythos and its reflection on patriarchal control. The clandestine nature of their relationship challenges notions of consent and agency, mirroring today's discussions about power dynamics. Skeptics may also question why this union was kept secret and whether it illustrates a lack of agency for Persephone, often at the mercy of powerful gods' desires. Overall, the union between Zeus and Persephone leads directly to the eventual birth and rebirth of Dionysus, illustrating how divine secrets can significantly alter the pantheon's course. This secret affair catalyzes subsequent events involving the tragic demise of Zagreus and the emergence of humanity from the Titan's ashes, encapsulating the blend of divine spark and inherent flaws in human nature. The concept of Hera's jealousy and the role of the Titans, as outlined here, delves into a mythological narrative where Hera, driven by jealousy, becomes a catalyst for conflict. In this context, the jealousy stems from Zeus fathering a child, Zagreus, with Persephone, which threatens Hera's position and possibly the established order of the divine realm. Hera's action in sending the Titans, ancient primordial deities, reflects her strategic manipulation to eliminate this threat, ultimately leading to Zagreus's tragic demise. This point holds significant weight in the narrative because it showcases the complex interplay of divine politics and emotions in Greek mythology. Jealousy here is not just a personal emotion, but a force that reshapes destinies, affecting not just the divine, but also the mortal world. By inciting the Titans, Hera sets into motion events that lead to the creation of humanity, marked by a dual nature of divinity and savagery, a reflection of the divine spark and the cruelty of the Titans. In real-world contexts, this narrative parallels the consequences of jealousy and how it can drive individuals or entities to actions that have far-reaching implications. In the corporate world, for example, jealousy might empower hostile takeovers or aggressive competition, fundamentally changing the landscape of businesses. Another example is in politics, where rivalries driven by envy can lead to significant shifts in power dynamics and governance, altering the course of nations. Opinions that resonate with this idea might include those of scholars who argue that myths serve as allegories for human emotions and actions, suggesting that this tale is a powerful reminder of the destructive potential of envy and its ability to drive irrational behavior. Controversies surrounding this point might involve interpretations of Hera's motivations. Some may argue that her actions are not solely driven by jealousy, but by a rightful assertion of power in a patriarchal pantheon. Others might contend that the Titans' role as mere pawns in this power play detracts from their agency as formidable deities. Connecting this point to the overarching narrative, Hera's jealousy and the resultant divine turmoil underpin the theme of duality within humans. The birth of humanity from the ashes of the Titans suggests that human nature possesses both celestial potential and base instinct, guiding the philosophical discourse on the human condition. By understanding the motives and actions driven by jealousy, one can glean insights into the broader implications of divine influence in mythological contexts, highlighting the perpetual conflict between creation and destruction. In the mythological narrative of Zeus, Persephone, and their child Zagreus, the fascinating and tragic episode known as The Fall of Zagreus, Deception and Demise encapsulates the vulnerability of divine beings amidst a backdrop of power struggles. This concept describes how Zeus secretly fathers Zagreus with Persephone, marking him as a child of immense potential and greatness. However, this divine lineage incites Hera's jealousy, leading her to orchestrate a cruel plot where the Titans lure Zagreus with enchanting toys and mirrors. Upon gaining the young god's trust, they mercilessly tear him apart and consume him, an act that reflects both deceit and brutal demise. The significance of this point is immense, as it underscores the themes of betrayal and the cyclical nature of life and rebirth inherent in mythological stories. Zagreus's demise is not merely an end, but a precursor to transformation. From the death of Zagreus comes the birth of humanity, and eventually, through divine intervention, the rebirth of Dionysus. This cycle illustrates the interplay between destruction and creation, power and vulnerability, and how divinity intermingles with human existence. In real-world contexts, the story echoes in various cultural narratives that highlight the dual nature of existence and the deceptive qualities of appearances. For example, in literature, the theme of betrayal by seemingly trustworthy figures serves as a critical plot device, evident in works like Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, where close friends turn against the titular character. Additionally, psychological studies often explore how trust can be manipulated, exemplifying the deceptive tactics used by the Titans to appeal to Zagreus's innocence. Opinions supporting this narrative emphasize how such myths explore the darker aspects of human nature and the inevitability of suffering and transformation. Zagreus's tale is often seen as an allegory for personal growth through adversity, embodying the idea that great potential often draws opposition and challenges. However, this myth is not without its controversies and alternative viewpoints. Some scholars argue that the tale reflects patriarchal values, portraying dominant male deities exerting control over female figures and offspring, a view that invites discussions on historical gender roles within mythology. The episode significantly influences the broader narrative of human origin in Greek mythology, asserting that humanity arose from the ashes of the Titans, combining divine spark and primal cruelty. This duality connects humanity to both the gods and their darker impulses, setting the stage for a complex relationship with the divine that permeates the entire mythological framework.